security and needing that attachment. So with Pippen not being there, he was the next dog up. So he became Jordan's little brother, however you want to put it. I think that gave him confidence and gave him like purpose. And as soon as Scotty came back, I think he kind of lost that.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Oh, just agreed. I piggyback on what he said. When Scotty was out, he felt like Jordan needed him. He needed to be that number 2 guy. Being in Detroit all those years, he was never number 2. He was never number 3, never really number 4. But he played his role well. So when he came to Chicago and got that opportunity to be that number 2 player, right. he showed who the real Dennis Rodman was, and he loved Michael needing him. So I think that was huge for him. He needed that to persevere for the rest of the season. So, yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo the same sentiment. I feel like he just needed to feel needed, like the guys just said. Gave him a sense of purpose. And he even said it himself. When Scotty came back, they were back to being the 3 amigos, and he kind of felt like he was the third wheel. And as someone with as fragile a psyche as Rodman appeared to have, I could see how that could I could throw him off a little bit. But again, they found a way to make it work.
Go ahead, Wilson.
Yeah, I love how they explained it a little bit because Rodman is one of those guys where a lot of people easily just gloss over the outside and the antics and everything else and completely ignore the savant he was from a basketball standpoint. I love that they took the time to talk about how sharp he was mentally, and that's how you can make up for Scotty not being there. Because, yeah, obviously they're not the same player, but mentally you arguably had 3 of the sharpest dudes in the game out there. So, yeah, you're down 1. That's how you can make up for, that's how Dennis could, how he effectively filled Scotty's role by being himself, because he could do so many different things.
And I want to move on to this part. One of the best segments of episode 3 was Dennis Rodman really explaining his science behind defending and rebounding, which a lot of people who quote unquote think they know basketball don't understand. We're gonna start with you, Coach, as far as him looking at different players, how the ball spins coming off their hand, which makes him understand where I need to go to try to get the rebound, the defensive tactics, the tendencies. Because most people think defense is just hustling and acting out. I'm like, nah, it's a science behind it. You could do all that, but if you don't understand angles and tendencies of players, you still won't get cooked. You're a willing guy to defend. So just break that down, seeing that, Coach.
Oh, it was beautiful to watch. It was beautiful to see him explain that, because you saw the Dennis Rodman that we all saw from the outside. You didn't know what kind of player he was, but it showed how brilliant he was. He studied every player. He understood the angles of the rebounders. He would, bring somebody in to have him shoot jump shots so he could figure out the angles of the shot, and he studied the guys' rotations. I mean, this is brilliance. This is new level brilliance that honestly has never been broken down in any segment that we've seen today. Obviously, we have more access to players today, and name another player. I can't recall, Cardell, you and Wilson, doing this. Can you name another player that's ever broken down something like this? And this was 20-some-odd years ago when he broke it down.
And not even just that, just working on it, getting his friends.
Oh, exactly.
So he can learn how to run down rebounds and jumpers. Like that was, I was like, see.
It was beautiful. People who know how to rebound, the Bill Russells, the Charles Barkleys of the world, I would love to hear them break it down, because that was something that in all my years I've never heard of a player breaking it down like that. So to show that he wasn't obviously, 7 games where he had 20 rebounds and no points, I mean, you have to be just an animal out there to understand your role and perfect your role. Defense matters. Defense wins championships. I mean.
I
think everyone kind of touched on it.
I got you, because there's so many people. I'm going to try to go around, make sure I got you. Go ahead, Wilson.
You read stuff like that. I remember reading stuff like that around that time. So, yeah, I was a nerd. That's fine. So, it's not new hearing that. But I'm happy that a lot of people get to hear it because of the platform it's on. Also, everyone's stuck in the house. You can't miss it. Like, that was me going on my way to go read that and find out about it. And again, like, to be great at something, like, is an example of how detailed you have to be. Like, that level of detail, it epitomizes greatness.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, and like your initial statement, Cardell, like it's a science behind it, and people just, think it's just go out there, play hard, run around, and do all that. Nah, like you said, if you run around without a purpose, you will get cooked. But yeah, like Wilson, that's something I heard before. Like, and I heard Isaiah Thomas tell a story one time about how Rodman would just sit around and watch during shoot around, and he was studying the guy's shots, seeing how they would miss, so he would know like where to go to get the rebounds. Like, he would know how many times the ball would rotate by the time it got to the rim of everybody on the team. Like, that's nuts. And just to have that type of mind to even come up with that concept. Like, and Coach brought up Charles Barkley. Like, one time Charles Barkley was asked, what's the technique behind rebounding? He just simply said it's to go get the damn ball. And that's the stark opposite of what we saw with Rodman. And like, another thing, like, if you watch the highlights, a lot of times when Rodman would get rebounds, he would go up amongst the crowd and tip the ball to a place where no one was, and then he would go get it. Like, that's a technique I don't think I've ever seen anybody else use. And he did it pretty much of like almost every rebound he got. Like, rarely he's just going up and muscling the ball in the group. So, I mean, it just shows what type of tactician he was, how smart he was. And it's just a level of detail that very few people have. That's why he's pretty much in a class with maybe 2 or 3 other players as far as rebounding goes.
Go ahead on that.
No, I think there's been other guys that have broken down rebounding and the angles and watching players shoot and how it comes off. I've heard other guys talk about it. I think Moses talked about it once. Even I think Barkley talked about it once, but not to this detail. But what I really liked about the episode was a lot of people just think Rodman just played hard and wasn't intelligent. And this kind of proved the opposite for the laymen and for the novice basketball fans out there that didn't really know that he really studied the game. Like, one part I liked was when he showed him watching film with the notebook and taking notes on players' weaknesses and strengths defensively, how to guard them. And like I said, I don't think people really understand that attention to detail to be great at whatever role you're in. So I really appreciated that.
And just to add on what y'all was saying, Rodman was special on the defense, man, because he was literally the only player I could think of that could guard Magic, Mike, Bird, Malone, Barkley, Shaq, Olajuwon, Dream, and you're cool with it. You like, you can go ahead. If he get rocking, we'll send a double. But we gonna leave in a single coverage. You're not doing that with nobody else on those guys, and still go get you 20 boards. I mean, he's a unique talent. And that's why for me, all the time, I'm always looking for him. As I get Mike, I'm gonna try to get him. Because he brings so much, and he's a perfect example of offense is cool is a major part. But if you're dominant on the other end, you're just as equally as important as somebody getting 30. And people need to understand that. This should be fun. Seeing the physicality of the 80s compared to now. We're going to start with you, Wilson. Just, guys having to play through that, man, especially the Bulls with the bad boys on. What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, clearly it's different. You see with a lot of guys, today, like what they deem adversity is why a lot of, or the physicality, what they feel is like, we laugh about what some flagrants are these days. And we get told about, how bigger, faster, stronger everybody is. And that's fine with science and technology, and that's great. But what you're leaving out of that discussion, and it's a big thing that's being left out of context, they were trying and allowed to take your head off. So I don't care if you walk around today lifting a bunch of weights or whatever, it's a different type of security in your head knowing they can't do that. Then they could. It was fine. The ref was looking at you like, well, you chose to go to the paint. What you want me to do about it? That was your choice. You could have stopped anywhere between the 3-point line, half court, and the foul line. You went past the foul line, that's on you. I wouldn't go down there, that's on you. So, like today's players, I get, and that's why at times, trying to find a nice way to say it, it's just comical. Like, obviously every area is a little bit different, but from a physicality standpoint, you're not allowed to touch anybody. Then, like, you legit had a set of rules where it was known, it was out in the open, and okay.
And showed up for every game and played all 82 with guys are low managing. I ain't even gonna go there. Go ahead, Raymond. Go ahead. You know what I mean?
One thing that stood out to me was when John Sally said we were taking to him, we were physical, and the refs weren't looking at Mike, making sure the savior was okay. Like, nah, you if the whistle don't blow, you get up, you keep playing. If the whistle does blow, all right, we called the foul. We don't want to hear you talking about it. Shoot your free throws or take the ball out. Like, that's just what it was. Like, the game doesn't compare from a physicality standpoint between then and now. Let's just be point blank about that. It doesn't compare. Like, if a person's facing you now, you can't even touch them. Like, and Mike put up 30 a game through that. Like, come on, man. And then, like Wilson said, from the mental standpoint of, if you go down there, what's going to happen to you, and to keep going down there, that's a different type of animal. So, I mean, it's really no comparison in that aspect of the game between then and now. Like, it's just not. And anybody that tries to argue otherwise, I just won't engage with them.
Go ahead, Arnell.
Well, one thing I think that Dennis Rodman said that I really liked was, like, he was willing to get hurt for a basket. He was that determined. He was that tough-minded that he was doing everything and anything to win the game. And I think they did a disservice by not saying how much Mike was getting, because even throughout all that physicality, he was still getting 30, 40-point games. It wasn't like they were stopping him.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a hard 30, 40 points.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they were stopping him, shutting him down. And as for the physicality, like, I think sometimes we get lost in the fact that you were allowed to do that. Not everyone played like the Pistons did in those eras, but you could. And then, like, guys would fight, and then you go right back to playing. No text, no nothing. It's just a different era. I don't think a lot of players mentally could survive in that element. So that's why I think players that were great then in the 80s and 90s would be okay now, because you can't, like, I can't get touched.
Yeah.
No one's clotheslining me. No one's
off their game. They were like, what is this? Like,
or even another thing, like, what the Pistons would do, which they didn't mention, was one guy would foul you, and there was another. You get penalized. Someone else hit you after that. So now you got Rodman hitting you, then Mahorn hitting you, and then someone else hitting you 3 times in the same play. Mm-hmm. That's tough to deal with. That's tough.
Go ahead, Coach.
I mean, just like everybody said, the physicality of the game from yesteryear to today is night and day. We all know it. We all see it. You can't compare the two. That's why it's almost comical when, they say, well, guys from back in the day couldn't play in this era. Okay. Okay, they might not want to play in this era because of the lack of physicality, but trust me, they could play in this era. The mentality of the game, to have someone knowing that you're going to get beat every single play, especially if you're one of those elite players, you're going to feel it after the game. You see a lot of these guys, the ice baths and all that stuff that they need. Think about what they went through back then without the technology that they have now. We can say, like LeBron, he says he spends $1 million a year on his body. That's good, but could you have done that back in the day? And I'm sure LeBron could have, but I'm talking about some of the other players in today's game. It's just a different mental aspect of the game. Can you handle that pressure? Can you handle that pain? And you can see where they, the Pistons started to respect the Bulls, because when they came back that next year, there was no whining, there was no crying to the officials like someone had mentioned before. It was, okay, we're gonna dish it back to you guys, and you see the levels that they went to after that.
And which y'all kind of elaborated on, all of y'all. Y'all said the mental aspect. See, physically you can see that maybe somebody has the physicality to endure that, but mentally you don't know until you actually go through it. It's like you growing up playing ball, you in the suburbs, but you go to the hood. You don't know until you're on the playground getting knocked beat up, and then you got to still play. You don't know, and no one knows until you go through that. That's why it's just like, I mean, some players you can kind of figure out, today Patrick Beverley's guys like that are down for that type of play. But overall, the majority of the league, you don't know until they go through it, and that's why that mental edge I always give to the former eras, because they had to endure more to get success compared to today. So It was just good to see that. I'm glad they ain't leave that out. What about when Doug Collins took over, and, how Jordan kind of made his first impression in New York, saying, relax, coach, I'm not going to let you lose your first game, and went out, dominated, and won the game. Just talk about that experience, especially we got, two coaches up here. Well, go ahead, start, Raymond. We ain't start with you yet. Go ahead.
That just kind of gave another peek into just how savage Mike was. And then to kind of backtrack a little bit with the Cleveland series, when the guy was talking about all the writers had pretty much buried him, and he went to each one. The guy that said they was gonna get swept, we took care of you. Then the guy that said losing 4 took care of you. Then the guy that said Cleveland in 5, we gonna take care of you tonight. Mike was a promise deliverer. And it's just plain and simple, man. It's just, it just for him to have that type of mentality, even it started from when he first got there, they touched on the episodes 1 and 2, that was a losing culture. And he said in his third game going against the Bucks, the team had their heads down at the end of the third quarter. He says, no, the game's not over yet. And that continued throughout his career. And with Doug's first game, same thing. They playing against a really good New York team. Even Doug Collins himself had doubts. He said, relax, coach, I got this. And he went out and made good on it. And that's pretty much who Mike was.
Go ahead, Arnell.
I like how this whole documentary, just in general, is reminding everyone how much of a beast and how competitive he really was. Because I think because we have this out of sight, out of mind thing going on in society, when you don't see somebody for a while, you just forget how great they were and how competitive they were. And just how he's not going to say die. He's not going to say die. And I can't say that for a lot of the great players. Now it's a handful of them, but not many of them were. If there's a little adversity, they're already giving up. And Mike, I think, thrived through that and found a way to push through it. Even with the media, how many times you see guys getting all sensitive, upset with the media saying things about that. Mike would use that for motivation and then throw it back in their face.
Mm-hmm.
So his approach, his style of play, his mentality was just different than any other player I've ever seen play. I can't speak for anyone before that. Everyone after, I'm not going to sit here and do the classic debate that's going on, but I don't think it's a comparison at all. And the closest person to him, rest in peace, even he didn't have it like Mike did.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, coach.
When you talk about Doug Collins, first of all, Michael respected him. You got to remember that he was a player. He was a hard-nosed player. Doug could play. So he respected him. And Doug realized that, hey, I have a gym here. I have somebody special. And if you remember what he said, hey, during my tenure, he was the MVP, the defensive player of the year, the all-star MVP, and it was something else. He was a slam dunk champion as well. Slam dunk. He was all four things. Yeah, he was everything. And Doug made sure to put that out there. You could see a little, you could tell it was a little salty, but I loved it because, Cardell, you know me well. I coached hard like Doug coached hard, shirt sweaty, suits a little stained, So oh goodness. So I absolutely loved his passion, man. So and I think, that one, the Cleveland, the shot, which, to me, honestly, I know everybody has their favorite. I don't see how anything that MJ has ever done, any shot he's taken, was better than that. I'm sorry. I think that shot right there, everything about it, I make the shot, Craig Elo with the inbounds pass to, score, and then to come back and do it again. Oh, yeah. Everything, the levels of that, the last 20 seconds of that game, I don't think there's anything better. Honestly, I don't in MJ's career, and I know that's, hard to say, but the celebration, Doug Collins' celebration, it was a beautiful thing to watch, man. Goodness gracious.
Sure. On you, Wilson.
Yeah, this is another example, another trip into the mind of a killer.
Yes.
That's all it was for me. It was just something that simple. And, that was one of those things. And I love that Doug threw them numbers up there. This is what happened. He told me, he was a killer. I understood that. Here's the ball, sir. Let's boogie. And yeah, that's all it was for me. Just
John Wick. That's why I call him.
Legit. him telling him that was when he found out they took the dog. That's it. It was just the very beginning of it. He didn't even find the dude's name yet, just that the dog's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's it. So yeah, it wasn't anything more than that for me. I'm just excited, like, Cardell, all the VHS tapes, all that stuff, like, this isn't nothing new. I was laughing because, like, ironically, some of the footage you sent me tonight, like, not only were they from, like, the VHS tapes, but they legitimately played in sequential order at times.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was just a little trip into a mind of a killer. That's it.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay on that killer theme. And coach, you appreciate this because the practices y'all used to make us go through, being extra physical, no fouls, no out of bounds, literally tackling each other, bringing overseas guys to practice, no water breaks for 3 hours. Like, our practices were tough, but the practices were tough with Jordan, and Jordan loved it. Like, Doug Collins would purposely stack the deck to get him ready to play against a stacked deck in games, and Jordan loved it. Whereas you kind of see a lot more players today complain about having the odds against them. Summertime, getting double teamed, they complain about that. It's like, come on, no, and he like, yeah, I love it, keep it coming. That prepared him for the games when he had to go against the entire squad at times. We're gonna start with Arnell though, but Arnell, what was your thoughts when you heard that from Mike?
Heard what part?
The part when he said Doug Collins stacked the deck against him in practice, and he loved it.
That's why I wanted to jump back in. Like, Doug Collins doesn't get his due with the development of not just Michael Jordan, but the team's progression. Like, everyone does this, Mike didn't make it out the first round until Scottie Pippen got there. Scottie was a role player on that team.
And he wasn't that good then.
Like, he wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
Doug was what started making Mike into that killer, because he played with killers. So he recognized what was in front of him, and he got him ready. And Mike respected him for that. So I think that gets lost. And also in the Cleveland win, like, people forget that Cleveland team was really good. Mark Price, Ron Harper, Larry Nance, like Hot Rod, like, that wasn't Cupcake City. That was a really good team. If they don't have injuries, if they didn't have injuries, who knows? You could play that game. But just like like I said, he was a killer. He came with it every night. He knew he was gonna give you, and like I said, I can't say that for a lot of players now. And he was also very coachable.
Yeah.
He wanted to be challenged. He wanted to be pushed. He didn't complain about that. Like, he wasn't happy when Doug got the axe, but he understood that maybe Phil was the next progression for them to beat the Pistons.
Go ahead, Coach.
I mean, sometimes you have to give those players, those special players, challenges. You can't give them the same challenges as everybody else. I mean, it's life. You have your superstars, you have your stars, and then you have your role players. So those guys needs to be pushed in different ways that you just can't push everybody. So Doug realized it. He understood it. He said, you know what? Hey, I have to give this guy a different challenge every day. And he showed him. And like, Arnell said, look what he made. He created, Jordan was there, but he unleashed a killer, So would the Bulls of the Phil Jackson era, would they have been ready if Doug Collins didn't instill in Jordan that hunger, that desire, that he had it, but you know what I'm saying, that extra motivation to say, hey, when the chips are down, I'm going to stack the deck a little bit even harder on you and see what you can do. Can you bring us out of it? And he could. So, hey, Doug Collins, hey, heck of a coach. And you see, as you can see, he came back. Michael trusted him so much that he came back and coached the Wizards, when he was here in D.C. So, he loved Doug Collins, and Doug Collins loved him, and it showed.
Like y'all both said, and Doug Collins knew what he saw because he played with the in prime Dr. J. So he knew he knew when, like, all right, this dude was the next evolution of that. We can't hold him back. You know what I'm saying? Right now, we gotta let him. And keep in mind, Mike averaging 37, 8 and 8, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 50% shooting. It was like his third year in the league. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's ridiculous. Where now it's like third year, he's still developing. He was the MVP of the league in his third year. Like, it was no adjustment. It's just ridiculous how quick he came on to be the best player in the game. With Magic and Bird in their primes, winning championship.
Hands down. Down the best.
Yeah, it was no disputing that. So you got to give credit to Doug with that. Go ahead, Wilson.
I can what Doug did Doug was like the dude, the part in superhero movies, like the origin movies, where you got the little person hyping them up, try to figure out like the boundaries of their powers.
Yeah.
That's essentially what Doug was for him.
That's a good one. That's good.
I like that.
Just like how tough can we make it? How fast can you go? How far can you jump? And then, by the time you stretched out, exactly the range of his powers, and obviously he wasn't fully complete from that fulfill it was just the mental. It's building on the mental. But like you found out just purely off pure power, how much of an impact he had. And like you guys have said, it was year 3. You're not supposed to be sniffing any of those things in year 3. We legitimately nowadays give people like 7 years because they don't spend enough time in school. They barely enough on the way up. They usually don't listen when they get there, or if they get there, the organizations are so bad, there's no vets. Cardell, you and I talk about that all the time. So that stunts their growth a little bit. So it's like a 7-year window. That's year 3 in that type of league. Yeah, man, it was just some superhero stuff.
Yeah.
Way around.
One of the most important things, I think Arnell touched on it, was how coachable Mike was. Like, even with that level of talent and just being head and shoulders above everybody, he's still willing to accept direction. And, he had the confidence in Doug to just go what he said. Like, I trust that this guy's going to make me better. Like, that's, you're playing on a team, then you get switched in the middle of the scrimmage to the losing side. It's not, dang, why he switched me? It's, all right, man, let me still go win. So that, just like Wilson said, just going into the mind of a killer. And, and Arnell, like you said earlier, Doug don't get his credit. He was there for a short stint, but it was very important in Mike's evolution and the Bulls just in general.
And let's just keep it a buck. Jerry Krause was room and field to take his job. That's why he touched on it, but he didn't want to sound better.
He want to sound salty, yeah.
Anytime you just randomly bring an assistant in and it ain't really this guy, you know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So he was gearing that up for that. So, I'm glad, Doug ain't fall for the bait, but just like, I know what it was. I don't think I'm stupid, but the hate for the Pistons, the rivalry, man. Like today, they hype stuff up to be rivalries now, and it's they got a little fisticuffs, if you want to say, in the game. It ain't hate. Like this hate. Like to this day, they just like, if I see you, it's on site. You even hear it going back and forth before this with Pippen when he worked on ESPN, and Isaiah may say a comment. He's like, man, I don't even want to hear what that dude got. It's just personal, man. So just talk about that, a true rivalry with them, not just the back and forth physicality, but with those two teams battling for championships and being in the same division. Like he said, people don't remember, you had to see dudes 6 times in your division back then. So by the time you get to the playoffs, you're already tired enough. It's like, man, you do one more thing, it's on. And then you add in the physicality, the playoff intensity. Coach, just talk about what talk about that hate for the Pistons and what you took from it.
When you have those rivalries like you were talking about, the Pistons went through it with Boston, those great Boston teams. Obviously, we all remember the Lakers and Celtics, but obviously they only met in the finals. When you have a rivalry of that, magnitude, and we're not just talking about just low level, we're talking about the highest of the high. Always meeting in the conference finals. Those are sweet and we don't like you, you don't like us. You saw the pain that was still on Isaiah's face when he talked about it. You saw Jordan talking about him, Hey, they just didn't like each other. It was just real basketball. That's what we grew up on. That's what I grew up on. I know I'm a little bit older than you guys, but that's what we grew up on. I didn't like you, you didn't like me. Yeah, we could be cool when we on the all-star teams and all of this, but when we're in between those lines, hey, we're going at it. And that's what I love and that's what I respect. So those teams of the yesteryear, it's a beautiful thing to watch, man. So. I give them all the credit in the world. I'm not with this, hey, let's stack the deck. Let's go work out together. That Giannis type of, new blood in an old type of way. I love it. I love it. I want to see guys compete at the highest levels, So that's why this season was going pretty well because you didn't have, the stacked team. So, good stuff. Good stuff. Beautiful to watch.
Go ahead, Wilson.
Yeah, man, there's levels to everything. And they showed us the levels between dislike, respect, and pure, unadulterated hatred.
Yes, indeed.
And the level, like what I liked is they really got into just how personal it was. Like you saw, remember last week, everyone was like, well, Mike went golfing with Ainge or whatever. Yeah, that's cool. The Celtics and Bulls didn't hate each other like the Pistons and Bulls did.
Mm-hmm.
No one had beef. Like that was a certain level of I can't stand your what guts. I don't like your existence, the way you breathe, just seeing you. It bothered them that much about each other, and that's what made it that great. The other thing is, like low key throughout that hatred is there was kind of a sense of the Pistons understood that how talented those young guys were, that duo was right there in that group, and the Bulls were. We had to conduct business like this. Otherwise, that happens. Otherwise they don't hold them off as long.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Just to be honest, like then, instead of it being 3 or 4 years, man, that's accelerated. They running by them dudes if you can't beat them up and you're letting them just be the pure crazy athletes they are. Are the Pistons winning 2 chips if they don't? If that's not the way they went about their business to hold them 2 off.
No, because they couldn't stop Mike. It was just that simple. Nobody in the league could stop Mike, and this is what they haven't touched on. I'm glad Kenny Smith said, and I had to post it on my social media pages. They put in an illegal offense after this 37-point game. 37-point a game year. Illegal offense. Like whoever heard of something like that? Like he said, and obviously he was coming in the league, so he had to know. But I never even heard of that. It's just like basically you can't move everybody to the other side and ISO Jordan. That was illegal now because they couldn't stop him. They said it was bad for basketball. It wasn't team basketball. So, and he still came back and averaged like 35 the next year. We were taking that up. You see what I'm saying? Like, and Kenny said it best. He said, you can't be in a GOAT discussion if you haven't had a rule change. Only 2 other players had that, and that was Wilt and Jabbar. Now, everybody else, and Mike came after. That was it. And Mike is the only wing player. Those are footers. So he said, I ain't trying to hit nothing GOAT if you ain't had a rule change. It's Shaq later on, Hackish, all that. Even AI to a certain extent, yeah, you can't do your crossover no more. Because, it's just, when you really add that in, man, like, you really, come on, you going to stop this man because they can't guard him on offense? Like, all right, I hear what you're saying, but that's just crazy. Go ahead, Raymond. Oh, yeah, man, before you go, add in the other factors that made the rivalry intense because Isaiah and Bill Laimbeer from Illinois. They from, Isaiah's from Chicago and Bill Laimbeer's from nearby. So then you got the guy in your hometown being the guy.
Good point. Yeah.
Being the guy. Every time you come home, like, yeah, I want you to hoop, but the Bulls got to win. I'm just sorry. You like, nah, it's on. All right. You going to get tired of hearing that. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I love it, man. I love the fact they took it personal. Like, that's really what's missing now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, guys are just kind of okay with losing to certain guys. Like, where did that come from? Like, what part of the game is that? Like, the goal is to beat everybody. Like, I love it, man. I wish I could have been a part of that.
Yeah.
Like that's amazing. Like the intensity in those games. And then through all of that, they still spoke about Mike with a measure of respect.
Mm-hmm.
Through all the hate.
And the Bulls vice versa for them. They push
exactly. Yep. Through all that, nobody discredited anybody's game. Like it's the purest form of athletic competition maybe I've ever seen.
Go ahead, Arnell.
What I was gonna say is about the rule. I know referees that say it was literally called the Michael Jordan rule, where you couldn't have 4 guys at the 3-point line or 4 guys on the one side of the court and isolate. So that's how unstoppable he was. We can go into his whole skill set. I think one thing we forget about, we don't talk much about, is his pull-up jump shot, which made him virtually unguardable.
Mm-hmm.
You think about him going to the rim and the turnaround jump shot, but a lot of people don't talk about his off-the-dribble shooting ability. But as for the rivalry, like the Pistons were the bullies on the block. No one really liked the Pistons at that time.
Yeah.
They're the bullies on the block, and these kids are standing up to them. The bully don't like when someone stands up to them, so what do you expect? especially when this team is consistently beating you and in your way for you to win championships, and they're beating you up. So what was that should have been expected that they were going to have that type of rivalry, seeing each other 3 straight times in the playoffs, and Mike going out the same way, and then finally beating them and sweeping them. So I love the rivalry, like, because back then you had to earn it. You had to wait your turn and earn it. It was nothing was given to you. And I think that's something that we don't have now today. We go all this free agency, like oh, see them 3-4 times, you go join so and so and win with them. And I think how many times during this documentary you heard a player say, "I would play for free."
Dennis Rodman said that loud and clear.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the passion was different. So when your passion is different, your competitiveness is different, and that causes that emotion that we feed on during the game. So now players is like I said, they cool with losing. I got my money, I got my endorsements. They don't care. Like to them, to the guys in the 80s and 90s, the game was first. Everything else is secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Like George used to say, I would play for free. And Rodman touched on like, this is the playing is the easy part. It's the other bullshit we got to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, so I like when he said that because that's how a lot of players felt during that day. Especially guys like Larry Bird, they just enjoyed playing and competing against the best and trying to prove that they were the best every night, rather than the media or someone else raised them to this platform. I feel like back in the days, if your peers didn't respect your game, it didn't matter what the media was saying, and it's different now.
And also, not to piggyback on what you're saying, I feel like the media back then was tougher. They didn't promote you until you actually did something. You had to really earn it. Like, look what Jordan was doing. Are you still not Magic Bird? You ain't won nothing, dog. So, you know, I don't know what to tell you, man. You know, scoring champions don't win rings. So you want to change something up. Hey, Magic Bird, how you
Forget
doing?
that. People forget that part. That he was doubted and discredited over and over again until he finally won a championship.
Well,
A
you
lot
know,
of people
kids
forget
like to say, you know, he just came. He was just born and went to the league and win championships. But it was a grind, and to get there, and it reminded him, and that's what pushed him to become the greatest of all time. You know, and I think that's something that's missing today because now you can basically wind your way into the All-Star game, even though your team is 20 wins and stuff, and it's just like, oh, hold on, where I'm from. There we grew up on. I ain't trying to hear you if you in the lottery. I don't care what stats you putting up. All right, you can hoop. Good. But I feel like a lot of things just are being catered to depending on your brand and who you associated with shoe brand and all that. Your game supposed to do all the talking, not all the media campaigns, so to speak. And I feel like the media was tough on them back then. They held you to the fire. And that's what Stephen A. talk about on ESPN when they try to pump young players and they're like, hold on, and them old timers get at them like, nah, treat them the way y'all treated us when we were coming up. Don't give them a pass. We tired of this. And just think about and think about what if guys back then were making $200 million on top of the intensity they have now. You see what I'm saying? Like, what if Mike would have got $200 million before Isaiah and Isaiah went in rings? It would have made it even worse. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, what? Like, they was jealous of Jordan because he had his own first brand with Nike coming in with the gold chain here, all that. So, I mean, it was real back then. Let's just say that.
They still throwing shade.
Yeah.
They still throwing shade.
Yeah, for sure. Jordan rule.
Yeah, you had like you said, Cardell. He was 6 years into his into the NBA, and he was still getting hated on. He's not Magic. He's not Bird. He's not winning. He's a solo guy. This is after the not only did he do it on the offensive side with the MVP and the scoring championship, he was already the defensive player of the year as well. So he showed his total game. So it wasn't just one dimensional, but could he lead the team to a championship? That was always the question and the knock about him. So like you said, the media was much tougher on Jordan than these, guys today, because you had to earn it. You literally had to go earn, your keep. So, and to piggyback on, what one of you guys said earlier that about the 80s, the money that was being made. Remember, a lot of those guys had other jobs as well in the summertime. That money that they were making, except for the elite players, obviously, some of those other players said, hey, we got to make another, earning. We have to make more money. So it's just different. It's given a little bit too early nowadays. Than I like to see. So,
and I like, and in this area that kind of irritates me, they kind of discredit and water down standards. Like now, it's like, man, championships are cool, but it's not the end all be all of basketball. It's like when, since when that happened? That's what you dominating for. So, But I still see guys when it comes time to debates and stuff, they bring up championships to kind of separate players. So obviously it does matter. So I'm not understanding it, but they try to discredit everything because to me, when you try to discredit something, that means you can't measure up. Otherwise, it just be like, okay, I feel you. I'm gonna try to meet that. That's why you always see Jordan when he won his first championship. He said, "Now I feel like I can kind of sit at the table with Larry and Bird." Even he felt like I'm not up there yet until I win, even though he's murdering the league. So what more do you want? But we're going to kind of stay on subject, go to the Jordan rules. What were your thoughts on a defense designated for a guy basically to F him up, to just keep him grounded so we can win? Go ahead, Wilson.
I mean, it was the ultimate compliment, man. We had a bunch of Hall of Famers talk about don't let the man leave the ground because once he leave, it's a wrap. Let that settle in real quick. I love that Arnell talked about his people gloss over the mid-range game and we love the turnaround, but the pull-up was his pull-up was so violent.
Man,
It was violent. It was an act of aggression. And a pull-up jumper is not supposed to be that, but that's what it was. It was legitimately an act of aggression of, I will elevate, there's nothing you can do about it, and take that. Like I don't have to come all the way down and give you that, but like even, Coach, you mentioned the shot over Elo, in his head, like he was talking through, he was like, yeah, I should have one dribble, whatever. The man had time for two dribbles and the pull-up going to his left. And then we heard a little bit later, with the Jordan rules, one of the things they were saying was push him to his left. The shot he hit over Elo, he was going to his left. So again, we heard in the first two episodes about how fundamentally sound he was. Like, it was his ultimate compliment. It was legit, like I said a little bit earlier. Outside of using those tactics, it was a dub. It was done. If you just let that man boogie, he was going to get you out of there without everybody on his team being fully mature. It would have happened earlier. But I love what the Pistons did. And the other thing is, we hear about it sports all the time. It's a copycat league and whatnot. Other teams try to do it, but like I was saying earlier about the mentality, you can't fake that. You can't manufacture that. Like, you can't be like, hey, I want you to channel your inner Rick Mahorn today. Nah, dog, you either Rick Mahorn or you're not.
facts.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you could watch 50,000 clips. That's what makes Rick Mahorn Rick. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes Dennis. Like, they called it, hey, take him out. Boom. Everybody's, how are you on a string to take somebody out? And I think it was you, Arnell, that mentioned earlier, like, it wasn't just a hit. It was like 3 layers of contact. It was the type of hits, like, first you're like, all right, I got fouled. Second is, damn, they're going to keep doing it. And 3 is like, do I still want to play, bro? Like, and if you get the 4, it's like, is it worth it? Like for real? Just the ultimate level of respect. And again, all it did was dude's a psychopath, so it just unlocked another level of killer. Instead of being like, I'm good, I'm going home. Like, I love they showed the beginning of the Jordan rules, like what it was, the origins of it, and then we got to see what it produced, which was, oh, I'm in a room now, I'm in a weight room now. Oh, now I'm gonna give out the punishments. So
I want to touch on that.
When I leave the ground, y'all gonna feel me when I leave now. Now let's have fun and extra gifted athlete, throw some weight on him. That's a totally different mix right there. So yeah, that's all I got to say.
And the nugget off the weight room thing is Mike actually got that from Joe Dumas because he asked him after one of the series losses, like the first 2, he was just like, "What are you doing all season, man? Like, I'm getting tired of y'all beating me up." And Joe Dumas, he made a mistake. He was like, "Oh, I left weights." I left weights. So Mike was like, "Oh, really?" So that's when he looked into it. And then a little bit after that, and that's funny how God worked. A little bit after that, that's when Tim Grover was trying to get on. He sent he said he didn't even bother Mike. He just sent the note to the Bulls, all the other players, saying, if you want some training, I'm here. And Mike is the only one that called back. And he didn't even reach out to him because he just knew, like, Mike is already all world. I'm not even going to bother him. And Mike reached out to him to see. And next thing you know, they in the weight room getting ready with Tim Grove and the rest of the system. Go ahead, Raymond.
Man, the whole Jordan rules thing, that just speaks to Mike's greatness. Like, if the ultimate answer is to stop this guy, we got to step outside the confines of basketball. Like, that just says it all right there. I mean, they had their little techniques. We're going to push him left. We're not going to let him go baseline. And if he catch the ball in a certain spot, we're going double. But if all that don't work, we just go and knock the shit out of him. Like if for that to be the answer, like come on, man. Like you can't even. And he was still getting his numbers.
31.
Like so, what like? It's just no stopping this guy. So you came up with a special set of rules that ultimately were against the rules, and you still couldn't stop him. So I don't know where else to go from there. Like they gonna play with 6 players next. I mean, what more can you do? Like it's like Wilson said, it's the ultimate compliment. Like we have to figure out a way to stop this guy. And then again, like the way they talk about him, once he gets in the air, it's over. Like name another player that's been talked about that way. Like, and this is from people that hated this man, but they knew, like, man, if we get him on the ground, we got a shot. But once he plant that foot and take off, just go ahead and take the ball out. Like, it's just craziness.
Go ahead, Arnell.
Like John Sally said, like at times we didn't even know if he was human. So that is high praise in itself. You know, the Jordan rules, like, was just, I mean, what can you say about him? Like, how many players have had a rule just for them? And if you watch after game 1, how Chuck Daly looked, you knew he was up to something because he was a great coach. It's like, we just play regular basketball. This is not going to work. We going home. They had to do something. And they good scout report, they took the elbows away so he couldn't pull up. They took the baseline away so he couldn't really get to his pull up. They were kind of forced into the rim. And when you come to the basket, we're going to knock the shit out of you. And that's what they did. And despite that, he kept going to the basket. And every year, this is what I love about him. Instead of putting the blame on his teammates, what can I do to make myself better, make my teammates better the next year? And then one year he went, you know what, we're going to lift weights. I'm going to buy into the triangle. Maybe me getting 30 and dominate the ball is not the best way to beat this team. And Phil Jackson told him that. And he bought into it. Like, maybe me getting the ball in different spots, in different areas where they can't just zone in on me and incorporating my teammates is the way to beat this team. So he was willing to always evolve and adjust and find a way to get it done. And once again, how many players in this current era can you say that for? I'm going to find some way to make the adjustment to evolve my game so I can win, because winning was the point. Like, he didn't care about the statistics. It was great. And he did that because he was a dominant player and he was trying to win. But he cared more about winning the game. So that's one thing I always loved about Michael, his competitive spirit, and the fact that I'm going to find a way. Y'all can keep putting the door in front of him and find a way to get through that door. And that's what separates him from a lot of other great players, in my opinion.
Go ahead, Coach.
You know, the Jordan rules, you know, I always say, you know, taking Mike out of the discussion, I always say that Kobe is the smartest player ever because he took Michael's blueprint and, you know, hey, didn't perfect them, but he was the closest ever to do it.
Right.
But the second team is Detroit because they prolonged their championship run because of the Jordan rules. You know, they made it tough. They made it tough as heck to, you know, for Jordan to be the Jordan we're going to show you, you know, and it's a reason why they had a winning record against, you know, the Bulls, had a winning record against, you know, the Lakers, had a winning record against, you know, Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics. You know, they were dogs, man. They were dogs. They understood how to play defense. They accepted that role. You know what? If this is the way it's going to take to win, hey, let's do it. It wasn't a foul back then. And even if it was, hey, we're going to keep doing it until, you know, hey, the opponent said, I give up. Jordan didn't give up. Jordan came back that next year, like Arnell was saying, that, you know, hey, what is it? We're going to lift weights now. We're going to make our team better. We're going to start dishing out, you know, the punishment instead of always getting it taken to us. So, you know, hey, what Detroit did is they made Jordan that much better. You know, you see levels in Jordan's career, you know, speaking of Doug Collins unleashing that, you know, that killer, you know, there are levels to this. And Jordan had to go through all these levels. And there were, you know, Doug Collins, Detroit Pistons, you know, even taking it all the way back to Dean Smith. There are levels where, you know, hey, you saw the evolution of Jordan. And this was just another thing to get him through. If he didn't have the Detroit Pistons, who knows what Jordan would have been? Who knows if Jordan would have been 6-0 with 6 MVPs in a championship game, because he wouldn't have known how to, to get over that hurdle. If it came a little bit too easy for him, hey, he might have been 4-2 in the final. That you have to go through is adversity that you have to go through to get to that next level. And Jordan saw it, and Jordan needed it. The whole Chicago team needed it. Scotty needed it. So Jordan, Detroit, the Jordan rules, hey, that was perfect for Jordan, actually.
Made him the greatest player of all time. Like, adversity builds you, man. And
yes,
a lot
sir.
of people these days, I mean, we can say it with the grassroots era all the way up to the NBA. They don't like to endure. As soon as there's a little adversity, I'm gone. I'm transferring. I'm out. And when we grew up, that was a sign of weakness. It was just like, oh, you don't believe me, coach? I'm going to show you. Just out of spite, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to make you play me. And that's the challenge. And that's totally been lost on this generation. And it shows. Now they probably look at Jordan for being stupid or something like that. I mean, heck, even the front office, if that would have happened, you losing 3 years in a row now, the front office may have blown that up.
Gone. Yeah.
So, hey, man, it's just a different time. We're going to go to the episode 4, kind of get through this. We ain't going to be too much longer. Rob, man, saying he need a break and going to Vegas. Just, I mean, if you was in Phil Jackson's shoes, how would you feel about that? How would you have navigated that? Honestly, go ahead, Ryan. You started off.
Man, that's an unfathomable situation. Like, if I'm a coach and a player comes to me in the middle of the season saying I need a vacation, no, man. Like, what are you talking about? But I mean, that's a special situation, and Robin's a special person. So I mean, obviously they did the right thing, because without that, that whole thing probably implodes right then and there. So I mean, like, Phil's called the Zen Master for a reason. But yeah, like,
go ahead. Finish your run.
No, I was done.
All right, go ahead, Arnell.
I mean, as a player, you got to really understand and know your players on and off the court. But I think that's something that only works for the NBA. That's not something you're ever going to see in high school or in college. Not that, man. That's a whole different type of ball game right there. But Phil understood. I mean, the players trusted Phil, and they were able to be vulnerable and talk to him. So Phil knew something maybe that Michael didn't know during that meeting. He's like, no, let him get a little break, let him recharge. He was a model citizen at that point, majority of the season. And it wound up working out. Coaches is not just X's and O's. It's not just your IQ. It's understanding personality. It's a psychological side to it. And that's something that Phil was very good at, managing personalities and managing egos. Like, we kind of overlook that side of the coaching aspect, especially people that are novice to the game.
Go ahead, Coach.
Hey, that's a funny question, man. I'm just imagining if you are a rebounding expert as well. So if you came to me and said you needed a break, hey, you know what? The question that I have about that is, they didn't say how much did he miss games? Or was it just practice time?
No, they ain't gonna bash him. All Mike said was like, "Nah, he ain't come back in 48 hours. I had to go get him."
But you notice how that a little it started. The hours started going up when. So it was like, what did he miss? That's what I really want to know. Did he just miss practice, or did he actually miss a game? Mike was
right, because he was
like Arnell.
He's not coming back in 48 hours.
Oh yeah, he knew. And like Arnell said, hey, being a coach, you have to know the personalities of guys. I've dealt with it before. You got to know, who you can push, who you can, who you got to relax a little bit. So you got to know them. You got to have that psychology of the game. It's almost like we had to take a class in psychology. Experts, to learn these players, because you have 12 to 15 personalities on your team, you got to know how to manage them all. So that was, Phil knew that, we needed to give this guy a break. Like I said, hey, he was a model citizen up until that point. Let him go blow off some steam. Yeah, we thought it was going to be 48 hours, but next thing you know, knock, 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 it's MJ at the door. Let's go. You got to come back. That was funny to me, that the star had to go to Vegas, knock on his door to go get him. Hey, Dennis was needed. Dennis was
no
needed.
doubt. But and I think Phil could relate to Dennis because he was robbing in his own right during the '70s with the Knicks. I mean, they told the story. My man took acid and was running down the street roaring like a lion. I mean, that means he was high out his mind. So he was a hippie, man. So he was wild like Dennis. Him and
He
Dennis
had his Robin moments.
man. So I mean,
You
look,
understood
man.
him better than anybody.
Hey, so he knew like go ahead, give him his time, he'll be back. You know what I'm saying? But man, if social media was around, then oh man, go ahead, Wilson.
Hey, huh, man.
Robin, oh no.
Like many of you said, like the biggest thing is that's what made Phil, man. A lot of times, like especially in this microwave era, we've seen some of these teams put together, whatever, and the first thing people do is, oh man, it ain't hard to coach them. No, stupid. It's harder when the more talent you have.
Thank you.
It's harder to get people to be limited, but kind of a little bit less than to a degree, because everybody knows it's easy. Like, this is what I do. This is what you do. This is what you do. You get more people that could do 97,000 different things. It's hard to tell you, look, today, I need you to do 13 of them. I need you to do 3 of them. You can do what you want. Cut all that out. That's a whole lot. Cardell, I love you brought up, Phil's playing days. I mean, it was almost God's timing, right? Like pretty much, because like for Dennis, we probably had to have somebody that could legitimately be on us in terms of somebody running down the street. Phil could. So I mean, it worked, and just kudos to Phil. And people just appreciate they took that part away from him. That like you're able to think about the better lack of words, the shit show the Bulls were at that year, right? Yeah. To manage and navigate through all those things. Just props to Phil for that. And that's why I could never coach. That's for people with patience. Never do that.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
I'll take your word for it, and I will never know, sir.
We won, but I was ready to beat up parents. It wasn't good. Tex Winter bringing in the triangle offense, which honestly, I know they say made Mike unselfish, but to me, it unleashed Pippen, his all-around skill, which made the Bulls start to become what they eventually became. Just elaborate on that, man. You gonna start with you? Go ahead, Wilson.
I literally what you just said. That wasn't for Mike more so than it was for Pip. And the big thing I took away from the night was, Mike had that thing talking about, Pip just needed to see somebody stand up for him, let him know that I'm right here to ride with you. So it's like, people today be like, oh man, there's only a certain way for some folks to consider people making people better. There's also another thing where you instill confidence. It doesn't have to be through numbers. It could legitimately be through seating control. Sometimes that means just coming off the ball. Yeah, Mike had a stretch, younger Mike, he could have played point guard. He could have brought the ball up. But again, to unleash Pip, the triangle help do all that. Mike's going to be able to do whatever he needs to do whenever he needs to do it. But to get the whole team going, to unlock that next level for Pip, it made things that much more dangerous for the Bulls as a whole. And shout out to Tex Winter because he never gets enough credit for that, and just for the mind that he had for the game outside of the triangle. Like, that was one of those pieces that was a part of that puzzle that, you take that away, man. Are we here talking about all this? Like, it doesn't look the same without Tex bringing that to the table.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway was getting Scottie Pippen more involved into the whole situation, because that, like you said, that was kind of the missing ingredient that made them, fully form like Voltron, so to speak. Mike just going one-on-one every time was cool, but it's harder to defend 5 guys than it is to defend one, no matter how good that one guy is. So yeah, like bringing that into the fold and the whole team buying in, that really pretty much made the Bulls unstoppable right there. And just to note, Mike scaled back his scoring and still got the highest career average and the most scoring titles. I just need people to think about that for a second. Like, imagine if he just went crazy his whole career. And imagine if he was playing today in the ISO era. Like, come on, man. Like, but yeah, that triangle was that was the missing piece for them, you know, and it seemed to give Scottie Pippen more confidence. Like he said, he started out, you know, playing the point guard, but you know, when he had his growth spurt, he started moving more to the small forward position, but he still had those guard skills, and that allowed him, you know, to do everything that he was able to do, which, you know, made him and Mike the best 1-2 punch ever.
Go ahead on that.
Well, I actually run some triangle offense with my teams. I think it's a great offense because it makes everybody in the offense dangerous. You have to guard everybody. You have to pay attention to everybody. As for Jordan, I think it did help him. It made him a little bit more efficient, and he was getting the ball in different spots. He was playing more off the ball, so you couldn't really focus on him as much, especially in the Detroit Pistons series. It helped Pippen out because now he was touching the ball. He was more engaged in the offense rather than watching Mike go off most nights. But it also made the other players like Paxson, Grant, Craig, all those other players more dangerous. You had to guard them now. You wasn't just watching the Michael Jordan show. And that's one of the things about the offense, because all the ball movement and cutting and just reading off each other is not very predictable to guard, and it really forces the players to have to really connect with one another. And when they have that, when five guys connect on the court like that, you know how hard it is to guard them and stop them. I think that helped them tremendously. Shout out to Tex when it's a brilliant offense when ran right with the right personnel, obviously.
No doubt. Go ahead, Coach.
You know, I know we all would like to give credit to, you know, Phil Jackson for the triangle, but we all know it's Tex Winters that you know, instilled this offense. But I honestly want to say, you know, it showed Mike's true leadership. You know, he was never really considered a leader until those years. And I think that's what really, you know, brought out the Bulls, because you have a superstar at the prime of his career, and now you're telling him, hey, we're going to change the offense to get other people involved. You know, what if Mike, you know, bucked at that system? No, I don't want to do it. You know, would he still be a Chicago Bull? Would Phil still been a Chicago coach? You know, so it showed his leadership to say, you know what? Okay, I'm going to believe in this system. You know what? I need Scottie Pippen. You know, I need the other players. So it showed Jordan's leadership more than anything to me. Obviously, you know, Pippen was coming, and he needed the triangle offense to show his offensive prowess. But the leadership that Jordan, you know, at the most critical times in championship basketball minutes, what did Jordan do? He gave the ball up. Paxson, you know, LA series, you know, Phoenix, which I'm a Barkley diehard guy, you know, gave it up, you know. So his leadership to trust guys in the most critical, you know, moments of the game, that's what the triangle offense actually really brought to, you know, to that era, you know, to say that, hey, the best player doesn't always have to, you know, be the one taking the most, you know, the critical shot. I can trust my teammates, give up the ball and say, hey, you guys earn it. Y'all are here. You know, be confident. It instilled that trust in them and say, you know what? Hey, if Jordan's believing in me, hey, all I got to do is go knock down the jumper. So
We got a couple more questions. Then we're gonna close this up. The one thing I took from it, and one thing I've always argued, but you kind of saw it, is it was always this misconception, especially with this era, with these young fans saying Michael Jordan never made anyone better. I'm like, yes, he did. It was Scottie Pippen, and you kind of saw.
Or it's Grant.
More so Scottie, because Scottie became a top 50 player, and I'm like, you gotta understand his growth. Like, he came from a small NAIA school. And by the time he was in his fourth or fifth year, he's playing with the dream team. That's one of arguably the best small forward in the game. That's development. That means, and then you kind of saw the details of how BJ explained that he got Pippen ready. Mike got Pippen ready because Pippen had all the athleticism and size, but he didn't have Michael's drive. And then when you seeing the guy put that much work in, you have no choice but to do it. Otherwise, you're the weak link. You can't just sit around and be lazy. And obviously, what a lot of people don't know is, you know, he started training with Jordan with Tim Grover, and then he got stronger and whatnot. So those are all battling each other in practice, guarding one another and stuff. That's why, you know, I hear the, you know, talking heads who don't deserve to be mentioned saying Jordan, I want to know what he would do in today's era with the wings, Kawhi, and all that. I'm like, he had Pippen in practice every day. What are you talking about? Like, you know,
Eat them alive.
yeah, it's
Can't touch him. You can't touch him.
Exactly. ISO basketball. He averaged 45 a game. Easy. He put up Wilt numbers today.
Exactly. You know, so, I mean, they got to find something, man. But just talk about how he developed, you know, Pippen in a sense, and developing Pippen made the Bulls eventually what they are, the dynasty. Go ahead and start with you, Arnell.
Well, one thing, battling him every day in practice and taking him under the wing, which older players are supposed to do, is something we don't see in today's NBA, where the older dudes mentor the younger dudes and help them develop and show them the tricks and show them the ropes and instill confidence. Even with Doug Collins, with Michael, Doug had supreme confidence in Jordan, which allowed him to be a better player. Phil and Mike let Pippen know that we have supreme confidence in you. We know once you become the guy you can be, we'll win championships. And that happened. And talking to him, like I said, lifting weights with him. Like they had what was it, Breakfast Club? Haven't touched on that yet. The Breakfast Club thing with him, Rodman, and Pippen, but that was Mike and Pippen before that. Mm-hmm. Spending time with him and just believing in him, and it's slowly starting to give him more responsibilities. Like I saw some posts and people was like, well, Pippen averaged more rebounds and assists and whatever in the finals, but Mike could have been a do-it-all, but he knew if I don't allow Pippen to have more responsibility and grow, I'm stunting his development. I don't need to be selfish to try to do everything. I trust him to do that part. Like you can't have three guys doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think people kind of never bring that up. Like Mike was like, you know what? I'm gonna let Pip run the show. I'm gonna play off the ball. You know what, Pip? Why don't you guard so and so? He instilled that confidence that he, like, even with the Magic Johnson, like he stepped up to the table, and Mike knew that he can do it because, like I said, I see this guy every day in practice.
And then when piggyback on what you were saying, as far as allowing Pippen to do it, it was only a couple seasons before where Mike averaged 37, 8, and 8 running point. He had triple-double every time he ran point, so he's capable of doing it. But falling back and letting Pippen flourish, it made their team even more deadly, man. And he definitely left, because there's plenty of games I've seen Jordan be like, yo, give me the ball. And Pippen like, nah. Mike like, dang. And he just chill and stuff like that. And Pippen goes, nah, we going to run the offense. So that's confident. I mean, that's allowing Pippen to be him. And then eventually it stopped being like Mike up here, Pippen up here. Then it became a tandem, and there ain't nothing you could do about that. So go ahead, Coach.
You know, just hey, Pippen needed Mike at that particular time to grow. You know, we all know that. And Cardell, the people that say that Jordan didn't make anybody better, I mean, it's laughable. If you were there, if you saw what we saw, you know, it's laughable. You know, study the game. Look at all the people that Jordan made better on that team, made them stronger, made them, you know, more conscious, made them leaders, made them, you know, more confident hitting that last second shot. You don't make those guys, and got them paid too. Got B.J. Armstrong paid, you know. But what we forget about is it wasn't a whole lot of movement back then. So you had your core players, and they really stayed throughout their careers. You know, obviously, you know, Horace Grant moved on. It's not like, you know, today where every 2 years, you know, a superstar is moving or, you know, moving around. You got a whole bunch of a whole different team. You know how we always see those stats of all-stars that Jordan played with, all-stars that LeBron played with, all-stars that Kobe played with. You know, the list goes on and on. It's only a handful that Jordan's ever played with, you know. They would, you know, people stayed on their, you know, on their team. So to say that he didn't make anybody better, just don't look on the floor. Look outside, you know, the court. Don't look on just the court. Look in the weight room. Look in the film study. You know, look in the sidelines where Jordan was telling people, you know, you saw it in the clip tonight, you know, he was telling Rodman, hey, if somebody screams, you know, do this, blah, 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 blah. He was telling Pippen, showing him, drawing up a play. Hey, those are teachable moments that, you know, only a few can really do. So, you know, Jordan was he made a whole lot of people better. Just ask them. So.
And what did they do when they left the Bulls? A lot of them.
Oh, nothing. Hey, a lot of them disappeared. You know, a lot of them didn't. You know, they just didn't have it after that. You know, so right. playing with the GOAT, it made you better.
Go ahead, Wilson.
Yeah. Look, man. Like you guys been saying, you know, Pip for the Pip the version of Pip that became a top 50 player all time doesn't happen without the lead dog over there. It's not possible. And the other thing you got, as you mentioned, he groomed his partner essentially, right? Like you said, it was Batman and Robin. It went to just, like it's just us. And now, one night you can give him whatever, or Scotty, you going for 3/4. I'm gonna fall back, but just know I got we got the red button if needed. But to instill that type of confidence, like it changed everything. I think John Sully was saying, like, once we couldn't mess with Scotty, it was a wrap, because like the level Mike was, again, like psychopath, normal people, role player, psychopath. He brought the rest of them dudes, even the role players, to at least have a killer's type mentality. And then for them to stay on top the way they did, you had to have a healthy sense of paranoia too. You don't do that without a psychopath leading the way. And to get Scotty to that place, and I'm not saying Scotty's a caliber killer, but Scotty got to a place where it was Mike, and then that next tier, Scotty was in that tier with the rest of the league.
Yeah, before.
If you know what I mean, you know what I'm saying. Obviously, it's a no-brainer. It needs to be said. It wasn't like it was Mike, Scotty. Nah, because like I think Raymond said, he peeled back enough of his, so dude could keep climbing and climbing and climbing. Because again, if he didn't peel back, then the gap's like this. Then you could throw other people from other teams in between them. You put it like this, and then everybody else is here. Hey man, that's how you end up with three-peats.
Go ahead, Raymond.
Man, I'm really glad you brought this up, because this is an undervalued and underappreciated part of Mike's career. Like, people try to use flimsy arguments. So Mike didn't get out the first round without Scotty. Well, when Mike got out the first round with Scotty, he averaged 45. So, I mean, Scotty was there, but we all know what the driving force was behind that. But to your point, Cardell, to see Scotty go from where he came when he first got in the league in such a short period of time to be the top tier level player he was, I mean, that just shows Mike, he put his DNA on that whole team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's making players better. That's getting guys committed. That's leading by example. That's digging in people's ass when you got to, and it's hard to receive that from somebody that's not putting in the work themselves. So, and Mike even said it when he first got in the league, he was like, I'm just going to lead by example. And he did. And then when he got to a point where he had to be a little more vocal and started taking over that leadership and saying, hey, I got to get these guys on par with me or get them to the next level, he did that. So if that's not making people better, I don't know what is. Like, trading for somebody that's been a sharpshooter all their life to be a sharpshooter on your team isn't making them better. That's just getting somebody that's done what they've always done.
And just passing on the ball, that's not making them better. That just means you're unselfish, but that's their strength.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Arnell.
One thing with the whole that debate, we're not going to mention names, but when Mike retired, the reason why the Bulls were still a good team is because under his leadership, they all learned how to win. They all learned how to be champions. He actually made them better basketball players. And like people use that against Mike, and I think it's ridiculous. Like, he made them better players. Pippen stepped up. Horace made the All-Star team. BJ made the All-Star team. All those guys that were on that played with Michael, they stepped up because they learned how to win. They saw this madman in practice every day. And if he's going that hard, I got to go that hard, or I'm not going to be here. They had to take his verbal abuse because he's practicing what he preaches. He's walking it and talking it. So people like kind of never bring that up. Like, there's a reason why those teams still did well, because he made all those guys better basketball players.
Great point.
All right. And he ain't just leave and go to other. Let me be quiet. I ain't even gonna go there. Thinking about that. Look, we're gonna stick to the script. Last question. They finally get past the bad boys, and the perfect guy's right there. It's Magic. The guy of the 80s. Won the most championships, the most dominant team, Showtime, and they take him out in 5 games. Just talk about how it all built up to that point, and you just saw it all just come together at the right time against the right guy where you knew the shift had just happened. Just go ahead and talk about that. Start with you, Raymond.
You know, when it was happening, of course, I didn't really fully grasp what was going on. I was like 6 or 7 years old. But looking at it in retrospect, once they got past the Pistons, the Lakers didn't stand a chance. Like once Mike cleared that hurdle of the bad boys, it was no way he was gonna not win a championship. And of course, it was against, and then, like you said, it was a perfect storm. He's going up against Magic, a guy that he was placed behind at that moment because he hadn't won yet. Like what more perfect way in his mind to cement himself than to beat the guy that people are often putting ahead of him? And just to know the kind of drive and the kind of player that Mike was, there was no way they were going to lose that series.
Go ahead, Arnell.
I think people forget how dominant Michael was in that series. Even though Magic did get him in foul trouble game 1, and they made the switch with Pippen, he was averaging like 33 and 11 assists. Like that's crazy.
And 7 rebounds.
It's shooting over 50%. Like that's crazy. You know, and people try to, oh, well, Magic was old. Magic was MVP the year before. He was runner-up this year. I'm not trying to hear that. He's All-NBA first team. James Worthy was third team All-NBA. I'm not trying to hear any of that. So, like, once again, they're trying to discredit Michael. Like, and one thing I keep saying is the level of competition he played to get out of the East was better than anything LeBron James had to deal with.
He said his name. Leave me alone. Go ahead.
I had to say.
I would also like to point that out.
Now, this ain't against LeBron. LeBron's on the table. This ain't against LeBron. It's about some of his fans in the media. There were more players making all NBA teams in the Eastern Conference than the Western Conference during Michael's run. People tend to forget that. All NBA players, at least each of them had at least 2 All-Stars. I'm just saying, like, who's better, Dwight Howard or Shaq? Patrick Ewing or what's the dude that played for Indiana that went to Georgetown?
Roy Hibbert.
You know what I'm saying? Like, are we being for real right now? When the other guy was coming, when the other guy was coming out the East, the Western Conference was having 10 guys make the All NBA team. The Eastern Conference only getting 5. And 2 or 3 of those guys were on LeBron's team. That's all I'm saying.
Man, look,
and we got to
man. He was leading cokeheads to the playoffs in his first year.
So we got to discredit the whole one era is stronger than the other era. And once Mike cemented himself and beat Magic, he never looked back. There's a lot of great players that we don't give enough credit to, enough love to, because they didn't win championships. They didn't win championships because of Mike.
Yeah.
Think of all the great shooting guards during that era that didn't make the All-Star team, but were putting up numbers on winning teams. Now we have guys complaining about not making an All-Star team, and they go into the lottery. Ron Harper was never an All-Star. Ron Harper had years where he averaged 25 and 5. I know I'm kind of going a little off point, but like I said, once they beat the Pistons, like he was no looking back. It was like once you beat up the bully on the block, nobody's fucking with you. And that's exactly what happened with Mike.
Go ahead, Coach.
You know, you need those rivalry matchups in the finals. You know, you had we've been actually blessed to see a lot of great matchups in the finals. You know, obviously, you know, Wilt and Russell, you know, just great matchups. And then you had the Magic and the Birds, you know, and even the only thing that we never really had was LeBron and Kobe. That's the only thing we never had. But we had the transition, LeBron and KD. So we've had those matchups before. And then Mike and Magic, it was perfect. It was perfect. It was a new leader on the block. It was a new king of the league. You know, everybody knew he was coming. He was there, you know, but he needed that hardware. So what's the best way to do it? Hey, I'm going to go beat the guy that has 5 championships already. I'm going to go beat the guy that they say is one of the top 2 or 3 players at the time, too, you know, players of all time. You know, I'm going to beat the storied franchise LA Lakers. And he did it, you know, even after, you know, hey, I remember watching that game. I was a Lakers guy back then, too, worthy. I was a worthy guy. So, you know, just, you know, watching that series, you know, I remember after that first game, I was like, oh, they in trouble. After game 2, I knew it was over. I literally knew it was over, you know, because what they did, oh, man, I saw it coming. You saw it. You saw an LA team that you knew weren't not taking anything away from the Bulls, but you knew that wasn't the same Lakers team from 88, 87. Yeah, it wasn't that team. It wasn't Showtime anymore. Showtime was done. Showtime was done. It was a new king on the block, and Jordan took it, ran with it, and never gave it up. So, hopefully, the next couple of segments that we have watching these, The Last Dance, oh, man, it's going to open up even more, doors and windows that we didn't even see coming. We didn't know. So, looking forward to it, man.
All right, go ahead, Wilson.
Yeah, man. It was a coronation. Not to disrespect the Lakers or anything like that, but you gotta think, man, the stuff them kids, speaking about the Bulls, the stuff they've been through, with Detroit, some psychological type warfare type things they went through. The last thing they were about to do was let whoever, and I don't even think for the Bulls, like Magic, it could have been whoever in them jerseys, man. They didn't care. Like it was just one of the things where like, we just got through what we came through, right? We ain't going back there. I don't care who we playing, whatever happens. And like Mike said, we ain't played good in game one. Everybody get all excited. It was like, bruh, it's not like y'all gonna do what they did to us. And they can't do that to us no more. Like the filter was officially off. Like, cause nobody else beat on them like that, right? Nobody did. They got past that. It was like, what are you gonna do? The worst you can do is beat on us. You can't beat on us like they beat on us. And we just swept them. You know what I'm saying? Like not swept them, but we just got them out the way. So it was a coordination, man. And like I said, I think that's where so much credit, so much credit to the Pistons for developing, like they created that. Like that's all kudos to them. So like you can't mention, the Bulls first three-peat, second, whatever. You can't mention the Bulls what they became without Detroit. Like if they don't go through that, like someone, I forgot who it was earlier, I'm sorry. Like what's to say they won't want to get complacent? That paranoia hit so hard because of dealing with Detroit, man, no. And it honestly felt like that, like no matter, like the media will build stuff up and people build stuff up, but I think the Bulls were just playing against that paranoia in the back of their minds. Like, we're not giving this up. No, we're not going back there. We're not taking a step back down that hill. We're not giving any inches up of ground. Like, we're just not doing that again. Like, we passed that step and we're not going backwards.
And I agree with you. And it's like, you heard David Aldridge and a couple other media people at the time just say after they lost the first game, they thought it was over all because you had Magic. He had the winning formula. He went to 9 finals in the 80s. So it's just like that's what I mean by how the media didn't give you something until you actually did it, till you earned it. So it's like when this guy won 5 rings and he just came in your building and beat you. Oh no, you definitely don't have it. But what they understand that Mike and them were different. They weren't going forward this time. So like you said, they were optimistic. They were like, oh, he had a clutch 3 and we didn't even play well when they barely won. Oh, we got them. And then they literally just won 4 straight and just got them about the way. And one thing I feel like with the Bulls, they don't get enough credit with, especially in that first three-peat when Mike and Pippen were younger, but it still carried over. But when they were in their physical prime, was their defense. They harassed the hell out of Magic. Like Magic couldn't even get going a lot of times. He couldn't even find guys because even though Pippen was on him or Jordan was on him, if he made the wrong pass, they was in the passing lane stealing the ball coming back. And it was just like he found himself back on defense so quick, and it was just relentless. And I know they about to get into it with Johnny Bach, the other assistant coach, came up with on the defense, man, the Doberman defense. Mm-hmm. That's what I feel like was the biggest part of their championships because they could hold you down, man. Like it was hell dealing with them. And that's
the half-court trap.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what really they took from the Pistons mostly is not just being mentally tough and physically tough. Yo, we gonna make sure defense is always there and to carry us because there's gonna be times we can't make shots. You know what I'm saying? And that's gonna carry us over these other teams where when they can't make shots, their defense kind of flimsy. That's the time we could just crush them. And that's what you kind of saw coming together with the 91 championship and then Mike being on top again. You know what I'm saying? So it's the beginning of the dynasty, and I'm excited to see where they go with it. Good to see Horace Grant. I was like, man, why they carry him? Oh, go ahead, Coach.
Hey, one thing with that, that first championship, even though they went through Detroit, they had that monster, 4-year stretch with Detroit, who made the Bulls what they were. That first championship needed to be Magic. It couldn't have been Portland. It couldn't have been Phoenix or one of the Jazz. It needed to be Magic.
Yeah.
It needed to be the star of the league, the passing of the torch. It had to be. So regardless of what they, went through with Detroit, it was still Magic, the player that he still was. Obviously, he, lost a couple against Detroit, those back-to-back against Detroit. But Magic was still the face of the league. Mm-hmm. Jordan was there, but it was still that toggle. Who was the guy? Was it a superstar or was it a leader? He was still the leader. So he needed to beat Magic in the LA Lakers for it to take off.
And that's exactly what it did, man. But
yes, it did.
Appreciate having y'all on, man. This was a great discussion.
Hey, thank you.
Next week.
Thank you.
All right, no problem, man. We'll see y'all soon.
Yes, sir. All right, fellas.
All right, man.
All right, y'all.
Later.